All right, 4:33, we're going to get started. We are recording this session, so that is our disclaimer. We will upload it to our YouTube channel and share it with union leadership after the fact so that people can access it. But we will record that and get it sent over. So hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Teal Dunbar, she, her pronouns. I work for Labor's Community Service Agency, and we are here today because we have been notified by your school district of layoffs coming in the next few weeks. And so our purpose is to help you understand how to navigate unemployment insurance, the local work source offices, and healthcare next steps. We understand this is a scary situation, and you may be in shock, you may be sad, upset, whatever the case is. So we are here today to try to alleviate as much of the stress around this situation with information. And so with that, we encourage people to ask questions. So there's a chat feature on Zoom that you can use. I'll be monitoring it the whole time. You can also use the icon to raise your hand and come off mute and engage directly with the presenters. But rest assured, we want every question answered before the end of the session today, because that is our whole point, is we're here for you. Also, if you have the question, it's very likely somebody else on the call has the same question. So please don't hesitate to ask. All presenters will be on the entire session. So if something pops in your mind after their portion is done, you will still be able to access them via chat or at the end. So I just want to go over that. We also are going to ask everyone to stay on mute unless they're actively talking, just to help the quality of the recording, minimize background noise. And I think that's all the housekeeping rules for the beginning. So with that, we are going to start with information on unemployment insurance. We're going to talk about how to create your profile, how to create your initial claim, and then how to file weekly claims, and how to maintain eligibility. So that's what the first part of the presentation is going to be about. And again, please don't hesitate to ask questions. We are here for y'all. So with that, Kelly, let's go ahead and bring you up and unmute you. And I want to remind all presenters, my colleague Rodrigo is graciously running the tech side of things. So please cue him up when you need the next slide.
Great. Thank you so much. I'll be really honest, this is my first time doing this, so it'll be a bumpy ride, but I'm really, really pleased to be able to help with this. And Rodrigo, if you could go ahead and put up the first slide that kind of helps set our stage here. So I'm Kelly, and my pronouns are she, her, hers, if you need to talk about me or refer to me. I have been an employment adjudicator for nearly 6 years with the state of Oregon. And please know that myself and my coworkers at OED have empathy, sympathy, and lived experience for what you are now facing. We know that this is really, really tough. when I first started with OED, I had been let go from a job with a nonprofit that was doing really amazing work. So I have a little bit of a sense of how disappointed you may be feeling. And then the other thing I would really like to invite you is to interrupt me at any time with questions. The way I learn better is if I can get that question answered right in the moment that I'm thinking about it. So please feel free to interrupt me at any time. We'll be monitoring the chat. I will probably stop and ask for questions way more than might seem necessary, but I definitely want to be here for you to get your questions answered. So with that being said, is there anything that anyone on the call was thinking, gosh, the minute I get to talk to OED, I have this question. I can just go ahead and field that right off the bat before I go into the presentation if you like.
I have Katie in the chat saying, I live in Washington. Do I still apply for unemployment in Oregon?
Yes, yes. And report, and that'll be something we'll cover later, but report all of your employment. But if the employer you have been working for most recently is in Oregon, then you do want to go ahead and apply for Oregon. We can reach a scenario where you will be given the choice of which state you want to apply to, because there are sometimes some circumstances that it is more advantageous, for lack of a better word, for you to apply for unemployment in another state. But if you've been working for a school district in Oregon, for example, you do want to apply for Oregon and go ahead and report all of those wages. And then that's something that we can tackle later on if it seems like it would make more sense for you to choose to go through another state's unemployment. And at that time, we can provide the information about the details for how to navigate that. All
Sounds
right.
good. Then the next question wouldn't be one that we would have. It would be for HR or the union leaders. So we'll just skip that second chat question. And Rodrigo, can you go to the next slide, please?
And then the next one after that, please. Ooh, looks like we skipped way ahead. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So yes, this is how you apply. So pro tip, the easiest way to do all of this is to get your Francis Online account set up. So if you don't already have a and so Francis is the system that we rolled out 3 years ago now, and it is the system that manages all of our unemployment claims. It's like a ginormous database and just the way that this work gets done, and it's accessible 24/7 to you. So it really is the easiest way to go with managing your unemployment. So I would recommend, and it can take a minute to get it set up if you don't already have a Francis Online account. So my recommendation to you would be tonight, tomorrow, as soon as possible, go ahead and go through the steps that you need to do to get that set up. You are also able to call our claims line, go through the automated system, and then you will need to be contacting that during business hours because you need to talk to a real person to finish that. So the Francis Online is available in both English and Spanish. On our phone line, we can get an interpreter for any language. We also do have some adjudicators that are able to help in other languages. I believe right now we have Russian and Vietnamese. So if language is an issue, we do have resources to help with that. So next slide, please. Unless there's any questions. Okay. So unemployment insurance is temporary benefits to replace part of your wages. So this is if you have lost a job or lost hours, had like a reduction in hours, and you're out of work for no fault of your own. And so that's going to be more of a situation if you have been fired. And I'm understanding that most of the folks on this call, that's not going to be an issue. That is reduction in force, layoff, that kind of thing. And then you must meet all of the eligibility requirements and the goal. And you'll hear a ton more about this from the folks from WorkSource who are on the call, but the goal is getting you back to work and by giving you some financial assistance to get you through this time while you are getting back to work. And so unless there's questions, next slide, please. All right, so you need to get that Francis Online account set up, file weekly claims, and meet all of the eligibility requirements. And it's you definitely, something I was kind of thinking about as I was getting ready for this is that even if you kind of believe like, I did my initial claim, I already provided all of this information, why am I being asked this again or being asked in this way again? There could be several different issues, several different elements of your unemployment claim that we need information about. So it's better to err on the caution of, gosh, I'm repeating myself again, rather than just leaving that unanswered, because there could be several people working on several different things regarding your claims. And so that's why that last bullet point is super important, is that if you get a letter in the mail, if you get a phone call from one of us, if you get a message through your Francis Online account, it's super important to respond as quickly and as completely as you can. So for example, something that I often do is I will send a web message to get some more details about somebody's separation. And I'll ask several questions. And as completely as you can answer those questions, the smoother this process is going to go. So any questions about that? Okay, next slide, please. All right, so
Real quick
oh,
question.
go. Yes.
If you, when you being laid off, you can file for unemployment still. You said I kind of
Yes.
came in late. Yeah.
Yes. If you've been laid off, you as long as you're eligible in all other ways, I always have to give that caveat, you can be potentially eligible for unemployment and be eligible to be paid unemployment. So what's something to keep in mind with the other eligibility requirements, and this is part of what we're getting into here with the information that you need, that you have your identity verified, that you have registered properly with WorkSource, that you were, and we'll get into more detail about that later, and I'm happy to provide more information as we go along, that you're doing your work searches. As long as you have all other eligibility satisfied, for lack of a better word, then you are eligible for unemployment while you're laid off. And this might be getting a little bit too much in the weeds, but I know it can kind of shift for people who work for school districts. There's a difference between being temporarily unemployed and being laid off. That if you've been told by your employer, we are eliminating this position, we don't need, for example, we don't need as many, they probably need them, but maybe can't afford them, I guess is a better way to put it.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, that part. When you were told by your employer that the jobs are being eliminated and they let you go.
Yes, and that raises a really good point, because that is a question that I almost always ask when it's a question if somebody has been laid off or not, is, did your employer tell you they were eliminating your position? And if they've told you that, we consider that a lack of work, that you've been laid off because of a lack of work. And if you've satisfied all of the other eligibility requirements, then you are eligible for unemployment. So if you've worked for a school district, that can be different than if you are on a temporary layoff during a break. So, and we have different rules about that. And during a temporary layoff, you don't have to do the work searches, because you're going to go back to work, and you've been told, when summer's over, you're coming back to work, or whatever it is. But if they've told you, we have eliminated your position, you are considered laid off, eligible for unemployment, and need to be able, available, and actively seeking full-time work. Does that answer your question, Robert?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So something that is super helpful is to kind of pull together all of this information listed here before you start setting up what we call your initial claim, getting your claim set up and go. And, some of this stuff is super easy, but sometimes it can be difficult. All of your employers for the past 18 months. So if you are working for the school district, but then also do some kind of moonlighting, have some kind of weekend job, work for a family business, that kind of thing, that you will need to report all of that income and provide the information of what your status is and why you're not working for each employer. So, and I kind of saw a question.
Yes. I
Pop,
was responding to what you had said, or I was just adding, if you do not have reasonable assurance to return, then it's
yes,
considered a layoff. So
yes.
Robert, you're correct. And then Abby says, I already have a Francis account set up. Should I wait until my last contract day to file for unemployment?
No, you can go ahead and do it and just let us know, what your last day is going to be, that this is what you've been told your last day is going to be and kind of projected in the future and get that going, get it in the queue. If there's any other issues that need to be resolved, you know, the sooner the better we can get that taken care of, to get your visit to WorkSource taken care of. So I would go ahead and get going on that right away.
And so Kelly, you're saying go ahead and make your Francis account and go ahead and create an initial claim if you
Correct.
want. You don't need to wait till the
No.
end date. Okay.
Yeah, and then if that changes, if something changes, like they offer you to work for summer school or whatever it might be, we can always update the information. And that's something that's kind of an important thing to just kind of take as an overview, is that we definitely give you deadlines and we definitely tell you, we're going to write a decision if we don't hear from you or whatever it is. But something to keep in mind with the Oregon Employment Department is we are always going to accept information. So you are always welcome and encouraged to submit information as it becomes available. We understand that real lives evolve. And so definitely always feel free to update us about what is happening for you, or if you need to change information. We're always able to do that. So,
Hey, Kelly, what are good ways to get in touch with you or your team to provide updated information?
So, so if you've been working with an adjudicator, like a one-on-one, to call them, but you also, the best way to do it is through your Francis Online account and there is a function to send us a message, because then you don't have to wait for the one person that you've been working with to get that issue addressed, that whoever it'll like pop up. And we have some great folks on our claims team now who are looking at live chats, and that sometimes it's something really easy that they can take care of and you don't have to wait for your adjudicator or the claims person that you talked to last week, that whoever is looking at that can help address that issue.
And Kelly, how would somebody, if they did want to do the live chat instead of sending a message, how would somebody live chat with the
So
employment department?
when you go on Francis Online and get signed in, there's it's literally an owl, like the bird, an owl, and you click on that owl because sometimes live chat's not available. It's just like with any other kind of website interface that you might have, that sometimes live chat's available, sometimes it's not. But there's a little owl in the corner, and you click on it, and it's just like I've had this most recently with airlines, where there's a live chat agent who's like answering that and kind of fielding that request. And so if there's somebody there, they will let you know, ask what they can help you with, ask for your information.
Thank you, Kelly. And I just added the live chat. If you put live agent, that'll help kind of bypass the bot and get you a human.
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's a great pro tip too. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I did hear from kind of the person who is my go-to as I'm learning to do this is live agent is great. And also too, I've heard that if you hit like 3 times and the bot still can't help you, then it kicks you into a live agent. So that's another way that you can go about it. So
yeah, we've been told that wait times are closer to like 20 to 30 minutes on that versus the phone. So it sounds like it's a much more accessible way to reach somebody.
Yes.
I've got a couple questions for you in the chat. So Allison asks, if I filed last year because of being laid off, do I still need to do an initial claim this year?
It depends because everybody's kind of like on a different, for lack of a better word, track. So if you probably will at the very least need to do an additional claim, but you also, if you've gotten to the end of your claim year, you might need to do an additional claim, and or you almost, if you don't need to do an additional claim because your claim is ended, you will need to reopen your claim. And you should, when you go on Francis Online, you will have that option to reopen your claim.
Allison, do you want to come off mute and maybe give us more specifics as to like when you opened the
I
claim
opened
last
it.
year?
Yeah, I
Perfect.
think I opened it last July.
Mm-hmm.
And then I only, because I got a long-term sub job for the first part of the year, so I didn't end up claiming for maybe a couple months.
Right.
But then I got done with that temporary job. I got called back to my job in Reynolds, and now I just got laid off again. So I wasn't sure.
I'm almost positive that you will just need to reopen, but that is the beauty of Francis, is if that's not the right track, Francis will tell you, and it'll say, you hopefully it doesn't come across badly, but it's like, you can't do that right now, that like,
Yeah.
you do need to do an additional claim, and it'll lead you through the steps to do an additional claim. But based on what you're saying, I think that you should be fine being able to just reopen.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
And then it's gonna tell Allison right when that claim has expired, and then that's when Allison would do a new initial claim with the wages based on the previous 18 months, because that claim is from wages that were farther back, Allison. So that hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Cool. And then let's see. David asks, if you're a 10-month employee who gets summer pay for July and August, even though not working, do you file for unemployment starting in July or in September after the summer paychecks? Great question.
Yes, that is a fantastic question, and something that I learned last week about this. So what we look at is the wages earned when they were earned. So even if it's getting spread out, you're technically not working any hours for the school district. So you need to report the wages when you work them, when you earn them, not when you were paid them. So if you have reported them during the year or didn't need to report them because you were working, then you don't need to worry about it, because it's when you actually have worked hours for pay. So it's like those, so hopefully this is a clearer way of explaining it that I'm just creating in my head right now. It needs to have those two things. You need to actually be doing the work and earning the wages. Does that make sense?
I got a very helpful response. This makes sense. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, and that was, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, we'll get to a slide that's going to kind of lead us through when to claim weekly and what to report. And so, David, we're coming for that. But that it's such a good question, because the schools do pay y'all, or I think a lot of y'all can opt in for year-round payments. But it's very important to know that you've already performed the work, and so come July, if that's when you start filing, that even though you're being paid for that, it's already performed in the past. So
exactly.
So
And
that's perfect, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Of course. And thanks for answering that, or asking that fantastic question, because it helps it kind of get clearer in my head too. And so something that might be helpful for people to keep in mind is that if you do end up doing some non-educational work during the summer, pick up some work, however, that is something to keep in mind in general too, that you need to be reporting your wages when you're working the hours, when you're earning them, not when you're being paid them. So that's something I find myself answering questions about a lot with just regular unemployment. So
Kelly, Brittany's got a follow-up to that. So would we then report our June paycheck or our June, July, and August paychecks all in June?
No, not necessarily. You only report, so it's week to week, right? So you are claiming every week. So you are only reporting the wages when you've actually earned them. So if you file for a week in June and you worked, that you went and helped with summer school, just giving an example to try to hopefully make this clear. So you go help for summer school and you go get help set up for summer school and you work 5 hours. You report those 5 hours the week that you earned them, and you report those gross wages the week that you earned them. So if you are claiming weeks that you worked full time all during June and July, chances are you probably are not going to be eligible for benefits that week because you're going to have what we call excess earnings anyway. Does that make sense?
Brittany, feel free to come off mute if you want to chat directly with Kelly. All right, and we will have slides that address the weekly claim and that stuff. So we will dig in on this even more. But these are awesome questions. You guys keep them
Yes.
coming, please.
Definitely. And this is helpful too because for, unfortunately, we are going to have quite a few of these kinds of meetings with school districts. So having a really clear idea of the kind of information people need and kind of honing our responses to that is super helpful for us. So, all right, with that, we can go to the next slide unless there's any other questions.
Sorry, this is Brittany. I just was struggling to get off mute. For the question I just asked, I was more like the fact that we get our June, July, and August paychecks all at once. So
You are cutting out
July.
super bad. If you could start from the beginning of what you were saying so I can get the full.
Oh, okay. So sorry. What I was trying to say is like we get all of our paychecks at the same time for summer, but then we actually stop working in June. But then don't I still have to like say that I've earned this amount, or do I just do June?
You only report the week that you've earned them. So if you worked in, so hypothetically, and I know it doesn't work this way, but I'm just hopefully trying to make it as clear as I can. So you work all of June, you get a check July 1, but you claim weeks in June, you need to report the wages and the hours the week that you earned them, not when you were paid them. So in a very real way for us, we don't care when you actually get paid the money. Okay. We want to know when you earned the money. Does that make sense?
So then I earned the money on the last day of June then. Or whatever, the last day I work in June.
When you actually worked the hours. So ostensibly you worked, like, let's say you worked all of June and you claim first week of June. You need to tell us the hours that you worked and the gross wages you earned that week. And then the next week, the hours you actually worked, the gross wages you actually earned that week. So even though like I get a check at the end of the month too.
Yeah.
So no matter when it is you actually get the money, we need to know when you earned the money.
Okay. I mean,
hey,
so
Brittany, tell us when your last day of employment is. How about that? And Kelly can get on the calendar and kind of.
Yeah. Well, it's June 9th, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So then like if you are, let me look at a calendar here. Okay. So if your last day is June 9th, the week that you would file, because that's something that's really helpful to understand. I have like a little post-it above my desk that says this. All of our claimed weeks begin on Sunday and end on Saturday. So if your last day of work is June 9th and you only work, let's say 2 days, you just work Monday and Tuesday that week, then the only wages that you are claiming that you're reporting to us when you file that week are any wages that you made. We start on Sunday and go through Saturday. So the 7th through the 13th. We just need to know, what did you actually work? What did you actually earn? So for example, if you work 8 hours on Monday, 8 hours on Tuesday, you would report 16 hours, and what your hourly, if you're hourly, and then if you're salary, we'll do the math. But just what you actually worked, what you actually earned.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
So like, if we're working salary, we've already reported what our like annual income was or whatever, and then the math just comes in from that.
So often what we'll do is we'll just divide it up for the purpose, because so theoretically, your last day is June 9th. You didn't earn your full salary that week. You
No,
just
I didn't.
earned 2 days of it. So we'll break it down. And so like if you usually work 40 hours in a week, then we figure out, what do you on average work during that week, and then we will figure out an hourly wage even if you're not paid an hourly wage, because we need
Got
to
it.
know the gross wages that you earned and worked that week.
Okay. Okay. I think that makes sense then. Okay.
Good. Yes. And that's a question that we are well suited to answer. And so if you still kind of need some help with it, that's something that we can answer for you. But yeah, that is, you need to have those two elements, that you worked it and that you earned wages, and it's gross wages.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
And we'll have some slides that are going to go over how to file your weekly claim, Brittany, and I think that'll answer any lingering questions for folks. But these, again, keep them coming. They're awesome questions.
Right. Okay. So then and this is an area too where sometimes people get kind of confused and don't understand what they need to do as far as identity verification. So we may need to get more information from you to keep your account secure. And so we might need to do another check. So that could be a letter in the mail with a one-time password that, as an aside, we don't even have, like, I have access to pretty much everything that, if you gave me your social security number, I could look at just about everything that you've been sent. I can't see the letter that has that password on it. You are the only one that gets that, and that is part of keeping your account secure. Or there might be a quiz or some additional task, or you might be asked to go back to WorkSource or back to the post office to verify your identity. So just be aware that you could be asked to do that again. So is there any questions about that? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what happens next? The iMatch skills registration. And this is where you are working with our fabulous folks at WorkSource. And this is about helping you get set up to get back to work as soon as possible. And so this is I would love to know more about the process than I actually do, but this is an assessment to figure out how to so for example, with a lot of school employees, I'm hearing from folks that a lot of school districts are laying folks off. So there's not a ton of work available necessarily with school districts. And so the folks at WorkSource can really help you identify what your transferable skills are. So that will happen at WorkSource. You have kind of your closest WorkSource office, and that's listed on all of your information on Francis, but you are welcome to go to any WorkSource office for help. And then you will also receive, after we receive all this information from you, we verify wages with your employer, then you get what's called a wage and potential benefit report. And so what that shows is what wages of yours were used to figure out what your weekly benefit amount is going to be. And then it will also say this is potentially what you could be paid every week. Now, if there's anything on there that doesn't look right to you, like you think we're missing an employer, or maybe you think your employer didn't report it quite right, definitely get in touch with us and let us know. And we have like a whole process to take a look at that and investigate that. So again, that'll come in the form of letters and questionnaires on your Francis Online account. So definitely be watching that and respond to those. I think it was somebody last week who said, they don't check their mail super often. When you are in the process of applying for unemployment, you might want to kick that up a notch and be checking your mail more often. Any questions about that before we go to the next slide?
And
All
I
right.
dropped the link to register for iMatch Skills because it is a requirement and you could get it done today or tomorrow. You don't need to wait for the deadline. If you get it done sooner than later, then the employment department knows it and it gets checked off your list of to-dos. So it's something you can just go ahead and get done.
And that's one of my roles here, is getting getting tasks of people who haven't registered for those or have missed their deadlines. And so I do end up, it kind of puts a stop on people's claims when it is, like Teal said, a really simple process. So yes, definitely get that taken care of sooner rather than later, and pay attention to everything you're getting from us. We almost always have, whenever you get something, that there's a date bolded, which is your deadline for taking care of stuff. So definitely something that I do is I'll scan through those letters and see, okay, this date is bolded. So that's something that kind of helps you stay on track and know when you need to get things taken care of. All right, next slide, please. All right, so I kind of already touched on this, that if there's anything on this wage and potential benefit report that doesn't look right, please contact us right away. I think the OWL is going to be your best way to go unless you're already working with an adjudicator on something else. And like I had said, we have a whole process for investigating that and taking care of that. Something that every once in a while people are kind of confused about is they think that this maximum benefit amount, that they're going to get all of that money within the next 26 weeks. And that is not necessarily what that means. What that means is that every week, so you have like this maximum benefit amount, right? And then you get paid, you start getting paid weekly claims. And so that starts getting subtracted from that amount. But you can theoretically run out of weeks before you run out of money. Or your weekly benefit amount could get reduced, for example, if you pick up some work and it is not as much, you don't earn as much as your weekly benefit amount, so that gets reduced. So if you see that $10,000 and you think you're going to get that in this next year, that might not necessarily be the case. So that's just something that sometimes is sort of confusing for people that I find helpful to explain sometimes. All right. Next slide, please. Okay, so a weekly claim, so this is important to know. To get paid a week of benefits every week, you need to file every week. When I was on unemployment, I just did it. It was just part of my Sunday routine to get it filed earlier in the week rather than later. So then it's taken care of, but then also too, if there are if anything that you say on your weekly claim creates any kind of issues that need to be taken care of or adjudicated by somebody like myself, it will happen sooner rather than later. A lot of us, are coming in Monday morning and we'll be able to take a look at that and see that you filed for Sunday, there's something that popped up. So that is good practice. You have until Saturday. I recommend doing it that Sunday. So you need to meet all of the eligibility requirements. I highly recommend doing it on Francis Online, but you can also do it on the weekly claim line. Is there any questions about that?
Yes, let's see. Question, if I get my job back before the end of the year for next year, then do I file a reduction in hours? And do I still need to do weekly work search if I know I will return end of August or September to school?
That is a fantastic question. Yes, you can continue to claim. And yes, you do need to continue to do the work searches. Kind of the way we kind of look at it the same way as if you quit your job to take another job and then that job falls through. And so we always look at, did you really have a definite offer? And we kind of look at it the same way within this kind of scenario, is that until you have gone back to work, we don't know for sure that you are going back to work. So you do need to continue, unless you are on an actual temporary layoff. And what that means is that you're like, when they lay you off, they've told you definitely we're going to have you come back on this date, and it meets our it's basically a 6-week window that's like, it starts the week that you were let go. There's 4 weeks in between, and then the week you go back. So if it doesn't fit that, then you do need to continue to do your work search activities. Yes. Does that answer your question? Okay. And is there any other questions about eligibility requirements? Because I'm looking at that and it strikes me that can be a really big umbrella with lots of little stuff under it. So if anybody has questions about what we mean by eligibility requirements, I'm happy to try to field those.
And we do have a slide coming up about the 3A's, which will dive
Perfect.
into that.
Okay, good. Yeah, exactly. Actually, that's a good point. All right, so with that, let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so a waiting week, and I was just kind of helping formulate this with somebody today. So the very first week that you are eligible to be paid for unemployment, you don't get paid for that week. And you need to have served that waiting week before you can start getting paid for any other weeks that you were eligible. So you need to file that weekly claim. And that's why sometimes folks will tell you, like, go ahead and get this going because you're going to need to serve this waiting week. So you're not going to get paid right away. That being said, a waiting week spans your whole claim. So somebody was talking before about how they had filed for a while and then got long-term sub and then filed for a while and then got something else. So if you have served a waiting week during your claim year, you've already taken care of it. But if you haven't done that waiting week, you will need to do that before you can start getting paid. So you need to file your waiting week and you need to meet all of your eligibility requirements. So if the first week that you file, for whatever reason you're not eligible, and it can be the AAAs that Teal was talking about, or it could be something like excess earnings, that you pick up shifts at your side hustle job, right? And you're not eligible. It has to be a week that you're actually eligible. Are there any questions about that? That one was a tough one for me when I first filed. So, okay. Great. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is what we were talking about. Inside baseball, we call this AAA. So these are the AAA issues. So to be able to receive unemployment benefits every week, you need to be able to work full-time. Full-time is defined by the state of Oregon as 40 hours. So I know that in lots of different fields that they define full-time differently, right? So like I worked at grocery stores for years, and if I was 36 hours, I was considered full-time. But for the purposes of unemployment insurance for the state of Oregon, it's 40 hours a week. So you need to be mentally and physically able to work 40 hours full-time that week. You need to be available to work. So there's all kinds of different things that can affect your availability. And you need to be available to work 40 hours. So if you have a transportation issue, a childcare issue, you have a pre-planned vacation that was already planned before you knew that you might be getting laid off, all of that, you need to be available to work. And then you must be actively seeking full-time work. And we'll go into more detail about what that looks like. But before I move on, is there any questions about just kind of like the kind of broader strokes of what this means? Okay, great. All right, if we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is super important. Keep detailed records, because oftentimes if you do have an issue pop up or you're filing your weekly claim, we want to know where you applied, who you talked to, what the networking was, what was the job title that you applied for. So I know a lot of folks, and I did this myself, have something old school analog notebook, and just kind of keep track of things as you do them, and then you're ready on Sunday night, which I think is the best time to file, to put all those things in. And it also, as an aside, it can kind of help you sort of structure your next week, that it's like, this is what I did this week, and this is what I'm looking forward to next week. So you need to have 5 work-seeking activities every week. And that can be things like networking, going to Chamber of Commerce, looking at job websites. It could be like informational interviews, updating your resume, going into WorkSource and going to one of the many fabulous workshops and events and job fairs, anything like that. Of those 5, 2 must be direct contact with employers in the way that they want you to make contact with them. So if usually what it is nowadays, right, is online. That to apply, especially initially if you're new, you've never worked for a business before, it's usually going to be now an online application process. So that's what they have said is the way that you need to apply for work with us. That's the way that you need to do it. But if they say, bring by a resume, that's the way you need to do it. If you go in someplace and they say you need to talk to Joe on Tuesday, go in and talk to Joe on Tuesday. And a question that I have gotten sometimes when I'm working on these is, what if I just apply for 5 jobs? Like I don't do any of this other stuff. I don't do the networking. My resume's fine, whatever. I just apply for 5 jobs. I've had people that apply for 10 jobs a week. That's terrific. That's absolutely overachiever. That's going to get you back to work faster. That absolutely can count, if that makes sense. All right. Any questions about that?
I always just like to mention that we encourage people to only apply to jobs they will actually take. Because if you end up getting offered a job that you refuse, that can definitely impact your qualifying and eligibility for unemployment insurance. So just be mindful that you apply for jobs that are financially what you need and that you are available and able to accept if you are offered it.
Yes, absolutely. And that can trigger a whole process that we call job refusal. Someone like me calls you and we go through this whole thing, and it can delay things. So yes, I absolutely agree with that.
Hey, Kelly, I have a question for you. I recently had somebody go through this before, and so I'm really curious what would happen. So say one of these wonderful people goes and applies to a job, they interview for it, and then the employer comes back and says, "Hey, we actually went with a different person for the position that you interviewed for, but we have a different position that we think you would be perfect for. It's not going to pay as much. It's not exactly what you are looking for, but we want to offer it to you." If you refuse that position, are you still being held to the same standards as if you were rejecting a job that you actually interviewed for and you actually wanted and got it, but then for whatever reason said no to?
So as in all things adjudication, it depends. And we do have a process for looking at it. And in most cases, that is going to tee up what we call a job refusal benefit issue. But to answer your question more succinctly, I hope, we look at several different things. That is it suitable? Like is the wage suitable? And we talk to you as the claimant and find out, why did you turn it down? What about it was not suitable? And in there is a lot of gray in there, and we do ask a lot of questions to really try to get to the bottom of if it truly was what we call a bona fide offer for suitable work. Because, maybe the answer is it's like, look, you know what? I worked with horses for a summer. It was the worst summer of my life. I'm not doing that again. And so we will take that into account, whereas the person hiring is like, oh, well, they love animals. Why wouldn't they want to come work with horses all summer? Kind of a silly example, but animals, right? So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
And you can't go wrong by answering those questions honestly and as much detail. So you could fill in and say, yes, they offered this to me, but it paid less. It's not work I really wanted to do. They wanted me to drive to Milwaukee every day, and I live in Tualatin. All that kind of stuff we will take into account.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's a great question. I get that a lot as well. All right. Is there any other questions about the work seeking activities? Something that kind of has struck me as I've thought about this in the context of people who work for school districts is that unfortunately you're going from something different that you were temporarily laid off and now you're laid off. And so it's different set of requirements. When you're temporarily laid off and meet like those guidelines I talked about earlier, then you don't need to be looking for work. But now that you are laid off and not going back, don't have reasonable assurance, you do need to be doing these work searches. And I think this is something that Teal has emphasized really beautifully, but I just want to repeat that I'm sure most of you are in unions, but you're all in what we consider to be open unions, which means that the educational union, you're not required to just go through the union to get jobs, if that makes sense. A closed union is somebody who is like an electrician, and being part of the union means you only get work working through that union, and you are in good standing with that union. So you couldn't apply for McDonald's even if you wanted to, because you are in this closed union. So that might be getting a little bit more in
Thank
the
you,
weeds.
Kelly. No, it's not. I always cue that question up. It's so important. The reason Kelly's telling you all this is because it's a question you're going to get on your claim. And if you read it quickly, you can very easily answer it incorrectly. The question says something to the effect of, are you a member of a closed union?
Right. Right.
And like Kelly mentioned, that's a union that dispatches work through the hiring hall. So that would not be any of you folks. So even though you're going to see union, you are not in a closed union. So that is very important to flag that. And I usually have to cue that up. So good job, Kelly. That's awesome.
Yeah. And something to know about that, like, for your own purposes and maybe for other folks that you may know who are applying for unemployment, we maintain a whole list of closed unions. So if someone tells us that they're in a closed union, then we go to our list and look at it. And then if we don't see it, then, it takes some more investigation, because it's a fluid document, of course, but it is something that we check. So, all right, unless there's other questions, let's go to that next slide. Okay, so this was kind of alluded to earlier. So if you skip a week, then you need to restart your claim. You don't need to tell us, though. If you get a job, or like I talked before, if you have a pre-planned trip, you take a vacation, you're out of your labor market for more than 3 days, you just stop filing your claims, and then the system and ourselves, we just assume that you don't want benefits that week for whatever reason, or you're not eligible for benefits. And then if you miss a week, then you just restart your claim when you're ready to start claiming benefits again, and you've done all the things that you need to do to be eligible for benefits. And then kind of alluding to the question that was asked earlier, that if your claim is still, if you're, like, I think I just set one up today, so it's like March of 2027. So if your claim is still, if you're still in that time frame, then you can restart it anytime before it ends. If you want to start claiming again after that, then you do what we call an additional claim, and that is another process that you will see on Francis. Is there any questions about that? That took me, you guys are great, because that took me years to understand what is happening with that. So good job. All right, next slide, please. Okay, when do you get the money? So it can arrive 3 weeks after applying. We do, especially, the good news is we've got a lot of people who are trained to do school employee files, and we're training more people to do this. But especially this year, and especially coming up on summer, it can take longer, and we are getting to it as quickly as we can, but it can take up to that amount of time. And the last I heard, the days of getting a paper check in the mail are over. Like, it doesn't happen anymore. It's either a direct deposit or a prepaid debit card. And something that when I'm working on adjudication with a claimant, I just encourage them to check their Francis Online account every day, and you can see what the status is, what's happening with it. And if you are working with an adjudicator, usually no news is good news, and you're welcome to call them to find out what's going on, or send them a web notice to find out what's going on. But usually if we need more information, we're going to let you know. So checking the Francis Online account is a good way to track what's happening. And then if there is an issue, we'll send you a letter. And that the quickest way you're going to access that is looking at it on your Francis Online account. Because as I said earlier, if something gets flagged or set up or a web notice goes out, like it's going to happen in real time on Francis Online. And so sometimes the conversations I'll have is somebody will say, I got a letter about this, and at that time we can tell you, oh, we've taken care of this issue because we have spoken about it. But if you're not sure, definitely always respond to any correspondence you get from us. Is there any questions about that? All right, next slide, please. Okay, so school workers. So we have special rules for how your wages are kind of, I hate using the word classified because it's used a whole different way in the school realm, but kind of how categorized would be a better word. So if you spend more than half of your time directly instructing students, conducting research, or working as a principal administrator or similar managerial position, then your wages get categorized differently. And the part that is the most confusing is that if you are an instructional assistant who is working with kids on reading all day long, you are directly instructing students. But for our purposes, under federal law, you are not classified in that way because you're not running the classroom. So in order to be kind of categorized in this way, you need to be the teacher who is running the whole classroom. So if you are an instructional assistant, paraprofessional, reading tutor, but you're working under the direction of a certified teacher who's writing the lesson plan, you are not considered directly instructing students. And total pro tip on that, if you want your school education or your school employee decision issues to get handled quickly, is even though it might not sound right, and I get it that it doesn't sound right, to say no to that question, that you are not spending 50% or more of your time directly instructing students unless you are the teacher running the classroom. Does that make sense? It's totally fine if it doesn't, because it's taken me like a year of doing these and going to trainings to learn what this all actually means. And it's all about federal law and how these wages have been categorized. And then just kind of a quick thing with principal administrator or similar managerial position. So even if you are a department head, you might not be considered at 50% or more, depending on like who you report to. So if you are under, like if there's a lab and you're working on a specific project, but you're under the direction of somebody else, you wouldn't be considered at your over 50% for the purposes of this. And then something to keep in mind is we're looking at these during school breaks. So there's a whole team of us that we're just doing school employee decisions all day long for like 2 weeks to try to get these handled. And it might seem strange, moving forward in your working life that you haven't worked for a school district in 6 months and you're still getting questions about that. But because those wages may be considered as part of your total wages that are going to be used to determine your weekly benefit amount, you might still get questions about that. And I get these all the time. There's a way for you to say, look, I got laid off in December of 2025, so I haven't worked for them forever. And so that puts it into another category. We're able to take care of it.
So
does that, oh, go ahead.
Real quick. I worked in school suspension, ISS. And I'm by myself, and it's a classroom setting without the classroom curriculum.
Right.
But
so
there's curriculum going on in there, but I am directing the room.
Right. So you are running that room, but are you like a certified teacher?
I'm not.
Okay, so you raise a excellent point, Robert. So in your case, what we would do, like if I got your file and I needed to figure out whether these rules apply to you or not, what I would ask you is, what is your job title? What are your job duties? And you touched on exactly why this can be confusing, because for you, you're the one working with these kids for that whole time for the in-school suspension. But for the purposes of our law, for how we categorize the wages, you would not be considered at that 50% or more. Does that make sense?
It does now.
Oh, good. Yay. Yeah,
So
it is confusing, and I think you really touched on something that a lot of folks that are not considered 50% or more have a ton of responsibility and are doing very professional work. But for this definition, it doesn't fit, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Kelly, let's piggyback off what Robert just brought up. So when will they have the opportunity to provide this information to y'all? Do they still get an extra questionnaire?
Yes.
Can you speak to that process and what to look for and
Yeah.
how
So
to provide information?
so the way that I understand it, and it's 3 years in, and I'm still learning like how our Francis system works and how issues get queued up and not queued up sometimes. So when it's working as it should, when you file and when you report your employment, our system will tag it that they work for the Clatskanie School District. And so then the system will know we need to do a school employee decision issue. So then along with the questionnaires about what happened with the separation, you will also get that questionnaire, and it will ask you those questions. Did you spend 50% more of your time doing these things that are listed here? And then depending on how so sometimes what can kind of get things a little hung up is if you don't, for lack of a better word, answer that question right, then it cascades into a bunch of other questions that you're like, oh, I guess I need to answer these, but they only apply to people who are at the 50% or more. But because you answered that yes, then you're answering all these other questions and you're being asked to submit contracts. And then you might not necessarily need to do that. But to answer your question, Teal, if all things are working well, when you tell us you work for a school district, the system is going to know to send you a questionnaire. What can happen sometimes is that I'll get an issue and realize there hasn't been a school employee decision issue set up, and I will set it up, and then it'll send the questionnaire out. And sometimes what I'll do is, because I've already talked to you and I have the answers, that I will answer those questions for you in the questionnaire, and you might not get it because I already know and can take care of it for you.
Yeah, we like to flag this for anybody attached to an employer that is an educational institution because it is an extra questionnaire. And as Kelly mentioned, the more specific you are about your daily duties, the faster they can push you through. It's just an automatic thing with the system when you're attached to an educational institution. So if you're on the lookout for the questionnaire and you get it, as many daily tasks as you can list, your title. If you have a copy of the letter that says your job is not there for you and you're being laid off, you can attach that. It's just a great opportunity to provide as much information about what you do on the daily basis and your title so that they can just fast track you through and get your claim going, because it's just an extra step that all of y'all will likely have to do because you're attached to school districts.
Absolutely. And the one thing that I will add to that is sometimes you did everything absolutely correct, answered it honestly, and did it absolutely correct, and then the employer sometimes doesn't answer it correct. And so then I might still need to contact the employer. That could cause a delay. So that can happen sometimes as well. So just to kind of like alleviate future frustration, that's like, look, I did everything they told me I needed to do. Why am I still dealing with this? And that can be why.
And we like to also say, just keep filing your weekly claim if something gets hung up, because once it gets cleared up, that, and you qualified, as long as you do the things we've talked about, then those past weeks will get released in payments, but you have to claim them in a timely manner. So you can only go back 1 week and claim. So if something happens and your claim is paused, your payments are paused, there's Kelly and her team are reviewing things, just keep filing your weekly claims. Once it gets sorted out, if you were eligible, the funds for all those weeks will release. But we like to point that out because you can't really go back in time. Is that, Kelly, you can probably explain that a little better.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm totally agreeing with you. And something that I will add to that is I have had folks say, well, I just thought I wasn't going to get paid because it's taken so long, so I just stopped claiming. It is super hard to get weeks backdated now. Like, you have got to have a super good story to tell for lack of a better way to put it. Like, we need to hear something really stupendous to be able to backdate. So that is absolutely accurate. So, all right. So everybody get, like, if you have a function on your computer where you can like take a screenshot of the whole thing, or get your phone ready, because on the next slide, please, I'm going to ask you to take a picture. So if we can go to the next slide, because this is going to have. Okay, here we go. So yeah, take a picture of this. This is all going to be super helpful for you as you're navigating this in the next few weeks. The information that is available on our website, the unemployment.oregon.gov, is just there, and they're adding things to it all the time. They're updating the information. There's lots of fantastic information and guides and videos. So that's going to be a great resource to try to understand, some of this stuff if I haven't been clear. And then your Francis Online account, and then the UI Center, that is what we call our main claims line. And that's the one that, we've got really fabulous people working really hard, but the wait times on that can be ridiculous. We'll all admit that. So that's available to you. You're welcome to call it. Something that a lot of us recommend is just dial it up, put your phone on speaker, clean your house, be monitoring and listening to that. But that is available to you if you do need that help. Folks will get to you. It just might take a minute. And then that's the claim line if doing Francis Online to claim is not something that's going to work for you. So, whew.
Thank you, Kelly. You
you.
crushed it. Thank you, Kelly.
All right.
Kelly is going to be on this call till the end. So if a question pops into your mind, you can send it in the chat straight to Kelly, or in the chat for everyone and tag Kelly, or you can wait till the end and ask in person. Russell's going to jump in real quick and do his couple minutes because he has another meeting to get to. So Russell, if you want to go ahead and unmute and talk about WorkSource, and then we'll go straight into April, continuing to talk about WorkSource.
Yeah.
Rodrigo, could you maybe go to the first WorkSource slide, and we'll just pause it till the end of Russell's presentation.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name's Russell. I work with the business services team. I'm based out of Tigard, and I'm here to share a few resources that will help you with job seeking. Number one is imatchskills.org, which was already mentioned. To be clear, iMatch is free. You don't need to be on unemployment in order to start using it. You can access it anytime you want, and it's basically the state's job listing board. It's basically kind of the state's equivalent of something like Indeed.com or Monster.com. But it has a few key advantages. For starters, it's the largest job database in the state of Oregon. So if you're starting to look for work and you're not finding anything on the kind of more popular job listing boards, there might be some stuff on there that you stumble across that isn't available anywhere else. Additionally, we have to verify all of the employers that post on iMatch to confirm that they are legitimate employers authorized to do business in the state of Oregon. Little story I like to share is right after I graduated from college, I was just looking for some small part-time work, and I saw a posting on Indeed.com for a game and hobby shop, and I was like, oh, this looks great, and I drove over with my resume and dropped it off. And while the job was legitimate, the owner of the store had no idea that somebody had posted the listing on Indeed. Someone had just taken a photo of the help wanted sign he put in the window and posted it, and so he was kind of caught off guard and didn't expect to see me. Anyway, when you do create your iMatch Skills profile, you'll be able to search for job listings. The more information you input into your individual profile, the better the results you'll be able to return. You can match yourself to open listings. So if there are certain positions you're looking for, the more information you have about your work experience, your background, that sort of thing, the better the system will be able to match you to it. I'm going to go ahead and post a few job listings that are in education that I located on iMatch along with their corresponding job listing IDs, and these are currently open, and once you create your iMatch skills, you should just be able to search them up and follow the instructions necessary to apply for them. And with this, I'm also going to submit a couple of flyers from that we at the business services team put out. One is for the public events list, which is just a list of events such as job fairs, hiring events that the business services team is is helping to manage, helping to run, and are currently active. If you open the events list, you will see that just today there was an event for a job fair for the Autistic Community Activity Program. They're currently searching for employees for their summer camps. And if you're like, oh, well, that would have been great to know about, but I feel like I missed on the opportunity. Worry not, because on June 8th, we have another hiring event coming up with the same employer that is currently going to be in the WorkSource Gresham office. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, definitely go ahead and mark that on your calendar. And this event list is updated every week and is posted to our LinkedIn page. It hasn't been updated today just because the individual who manages our LinkedIn page, unfortunately, is out sick. But as soon as he's back in, we'll have it posted up and check in regularly to see when it's refreshed. Another thing that's posted to LinkedIn and is a good resource is our staff assisted listings. Like I said, also posted on LinkedIn. You can These are basically job listings that our business services representatives are trying to recruit for. So employers contact the team and basically say, hey, I'm having trouble filling this position. And what we do is we go through iMatch and we go ahead and we recruit and screen candidates. And then if we think they're a good fit, we pass them on to employers. Right now, there is a summer camp position, assistant position that is currently open and being recruited for. I'm not sure how much longer it'll be open because the average kind of length for these positions in terms of recruiting is about a month. But yeah, if that sounds like something you're interested in, then I highly recommend you take the chance to apply and look over the rest of the events list and the job listings to see if there's anything you might be interested in or might consider relevant to your experience. And then finally, the last thing I am going to talk about is a website called qualityinfo.org. Qualityinfo.org is a great resource just for finding labor information. All of the information available on qualityinfo.org comes directly from the state of Oregon itself. So it's up to date, it's accurate. And, if you're trying to get a sense of just the labor forecast, labor situation in the state of Oregon and what kind of job fields are in the most demand, then this is a really great tool. For example, obviously, just since it's getting into summer, there's not going to be a whole lot of teaching positions that are being actively recruited for. But if I go on to qualityinfo.org, I go under the tools tab and I go down to occupation and wage information. I can type in tutors. And according to Quality Info, hold on, it's not loading. There we go. Yeah, the median hourly wage for tutoring positions is $23.09 an hour. There are a total of 257 job openings per year, and it's got a projected 10-year growth of 9.7%. So this is kind of a good, gives me a good sense of whether it might be, wise to spend my time, potentially trying to apply for a tutoring position or something in that field, or whether, it might be good to try to find kind of education work that's kind of focused on other fields. Teal's already posted the link to qualityinfo.org in the chat. Thank you, Teal. Much appreciated. I'm just going to type in iMatch skills. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Russell, so much. We know you got to jump off, but if any questions pop up, I'll email you and get them back to folks. Appreciate
Yeah,
you.
no problem. Thank you.
Yes, and then April is also from WorkSource and is going to connect the dots with your unemployment insurance requirements that are connected to WorkSource, but then beyond that, the myriad of resources and trainings and workshops and all sorts of good things that are available at no cost to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm April Torres, she, her, hers pronouns, and I work at Mount Hood Community College. I'm part of the Workforce Development Skills team, and I work out of the WorkSource Gresham office. So if you want to click the next slide, please. Um, Next one. There we go. So about WorkSource. So we are considered a public one-stop shop system. So you can definitely come here and get opportunities within our Workforce Innovations and Opportunity Act programs, so our WIOA programs. You also can get some support from Oregon Employment Department or OED, as well as get support with ODHS, Voc Rehab, Title II OCB, and community partners. So this is universal access. The only eligibility requirements to work with any WorkSource Oregon Portland Metro office is you have to be 18 years of age or older. You have to legally be able to work in the United States. This does apply to some services, but not all services. Next slide, please. There we go. So providing employment services designed for you is to assist you in getting started in a new career or maybe assist you in getting somewhere within the same career, but maybe just another step up. We also can assist in advancing your current career. Like I said, that extra step up. Maybe you need a few more qualifications to get you to the next pay bracket or to get you to a new position that just requires a little bit of extra training. It'll also teach you successful job search techniques so that you can keep with the times because a lot of things have changed over the years, especially if you've been in your position for a while and you want to know what the employers are looking for out there, as well as how should you be selling yourself in the best way possible so you get seen and you get that opportunity of selling yourself in an interview. Next slide, please. All right, so this is our work source structure. We like to do exploratory means of getting information from you so that we can figure out what is going to be the best fit or what your needs are. So how can we actually help you? Then we've got the training and skills portion where this is usually post-secondary education in the form of maybe short-term trainings that again will help boost you in the current career or be able to get you into an entry-level position in a brand new career. We also do career services, so that's job readiness, making sure that you have a resume ready, cover letter ready to go. Maybe you need some support with interviewing skills, and a mock interview session might help you out or take the jitters off when you get ready to prepare for an interview. So we are job readiness. And then business services. So we also do some job connection where we do have connections with different employers in the area. And we do get a lot of information back, especially from our partners at OED and our partners at WorkSource that will provide us with these public event lists as well as these job listings often so that we can be supporting those when we see those jobs come across and the people that we're working with, we go, oh, that might work for them. And we can move that forward onto them so that they can get that information as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. All right, so our work source services, we do a lot of in-person and virtual workshops. We do basic skills development, as well as occupational skills training, job search assistance, resource and computer labs, and specialized services and programs. So our in-person virtual workshops can be anything from help with resume building. It could be, we also have our scholarship application workshops to teach you how to apply for a scholarship if you are looking for additional training. Our basic skills development does a lot with, like, for instance, our community partner in Goodwill. They will come into various centers and provide some basic skills development. So if for any reason at all, you or somebody you know is having issues with basic computer skills, you can take advantage of working with our community partner in Goodwill so that you can build those skills up, or the folks that you know might need that support. You can send them to us and we can help them get those basic computer skills that are needed. And again, all of these services are free of charge. We also do occupational skills training, so that's where that application for our WorkSource application scholarship comes into play. So if you find a short-term training that might help you put an additional mark or listing on your resume that'll help you take a step up or even move to another job opportunity or career opportunity, then there's possibility that we could help pay for those trainings. Usually trainings are less than a year long, and the funding that we can provide is about up to $3,500. So it might be worth it, especially if you've been looking at a short-term training that you really want to take, because it'll really boost your skills as well as make you look more enticing to employers out there in the field that you're looking at. Job search assistance, that can happen amongst all of our folks at WorkSource, but also in a couple of the areas that have skills teams. So Mount Hood Community College has a skills team that works very closely with WorkSource Oregon, and PCC also has a skills team out of the Beaverton Hillsborough location, and they are also working very closely with WorkSource. And so all of us can support in the job search needs. And then resources and computer labs. Many of our locations have loads of different resources that you can tap into as far as like knowledge about different things that are going on that you might need assistance with, or that you could take advantage with, that is in like our public events and things. But almost every location, I'm pretty sure all the locations have a computer lab that you can utilize for free if you need to do job searches, you need to fix your resume, print things off for a job interview, or for um, putting in applications for jobs. We've got a couple of computer labs here that we can do that for, as well as there's other locations that have that too. And then depending on the type of programs and services, we do have a lot of specialized ones. Some WorkSource offices provide more than others, but a majority of the time, if we can't offer it in person, you might want to look and see if we can offer it virtually. As I know that we have quite a few opportunities to take on some services and programs that are a little more specialized. They can also be delivered virtually. Next slide, please. All right. So our workshops, a lot of them are listed here and what they do or what they can provide. So we do have workshops that help with career exploration, especially if this is just a stepping stone and you're looking for something a little bit more. Interview prep. We also do resume help. We've got, like I said, the scholarship application information session that talks all about the application scholarship, the scholarship application for training, additional training, so that you can either level up or, like I said, move over to a new career. Job search workshops, as well as job clubs and networking groups. that can sometimes bring employers into those workshops. So you actually have an employer to ask questions of, maybe pick their brains for things that you should be doing to set yourself apart. So those are amazing groups to get a part of or be a part of. And then supplemental workshops, basic technical skills that we've talked about, and then our community resources. So if you're needing any support within the community, whether that's housing or that's you've got food insecurities, if you need childcare, things of that nature, coming to a WorkSource Oregon location and talking to them about those needs will connect you with our community partners that can help you with those types of resources. They are out there. You just got to know what you're needing and know who to ask. And WorkSource Oregon is the best place to start for asking for that kind of support and information. Next slide, please.
April, David in the chat asks
Mhm.
if basically if a worker's layoff coincides with a previously planned moves within Oregon, say like Medford or Ontario, for example, can the workforce office here locally support that employment search outside of the metro area, but still within the state of Oregon?
So it's kind of difficult because we have a lot of resources for Portland Metro. And so if you were to say move to Ontario, Oregon, and you were like, can you help me, April? I'm trying to find a job here in Ontario. It's probably not going to be in my wheelhouse to help you because I don't really know anything about Ontario, Oregon. Um, but we would highly encourage you to go to a WorkSource office within Ontario, Oregon, and they would be happy to pick up where we left off and continue to support you in that way. I know for a fact that the Portland Metro WorkSource Oregon locations have loads of supports and resources and opportunities. But I know that that covers our Portland Metro region. I'm originally from Eastern Oregon, and I cannot remember at all a day where Hermiston, Oregon had the kinds of supports and resources that we have over here in the Portland Metro. But again, Hermiston, Oregon is probably a tiny fragment of what the Portland Metro is as far as like population and opportunity. So that's kind of why we have a lot of resources and opportunities here, whereas maybe somewhere else across the state might not have as much, but the same types of support and the way everything works at the WorkSource office here in the Portland Metro, it's going to work the same way wherever you go in the state of Oregon. All right,
Perfect. Thank you
thanks.
very much.
You're welcome. Great question. All right, some additional benefits of accessing the WorkSource Oregon offices wherever you are. Again, we highly recommend maybe staying closer to home and utilizing the WorkSource Oregon Portland Metro office that is close to you so that you're not having to drive all over the Portland Metro to get to somebody. But if you have found either a location, a person within that location, or just something at a different office that isn't your considered home office, that's okay too. You can always go and get support there. Just know that you can't come to the Portland Metro Gresham office and tap into, say, a $3,500 scholarship here to go to training, and then go to the Beaverton Hillsborough Portland Metro office and do another $3,500 for the same training. We don't double dip. So make sure that you're still working with one office, but it's your choice wherever you want to go. We highly recommend staying close to home just so that it's convenient for you. So some additional benefits, as I was saying, is engaging qualifies as a work search activity. So if you are filing for unemployment and you're like, you know what, I want to go to the WorkSource office and just kind of see what things are out there and how they can help me, and you end up, sitting down with me and working with me on your resume, that qualifies as a work search activity for the week, and you can definitely put that down, and that will count for your unemployment activities. So keep that in mind. We are proud partners of the American Job Center Network, so yay. And then all our services are free, every single one of them. So please take advantage of what WorkSource Oregon Portland Metro has to offer, because we do have a lot. And if it seems like there's a lot, but it's just not what you're looking for, it might be worth it just to sit down with one of us, share your story, tell us what you've been working on in the past, what you were hoping to do in the future, and we'll guide you the best we can. So on the screen now is our center locations QR code. So if you want to scan that, that'll tell you where all the locations are. But we are located in Beaverton, Hillsborough at the Willow Creek Opportunity Center. We're also in Portland North Northeast. We're also at Portland Metro Southeast, which is also where I believe it's Southeast Works is located. They're kind of together in the same building. Portland Metro Tigard is out there as well in Tigard. And then my home in Portland Metro Gresham. So I'm not sure if there's anything else on the next slide, but does anybody have any questions now that I'm done?
Thank you, April. That's very thorough. Snap a photo of the QR code. You can figure out the location closest to you. And like April said, you can go ahead and get going on connecting with WorkSource now. And that way, when your unemployment claim is live and active, you've already um, kind of started the process there. So you can walk into WorkSource. It's a walk-in kind of status for most services there. And what are the hours, April, at WorkSource?
Yeah, so I mean, our location we're open 8:30 to 5. So I want to say that's probably a standard. Maybe other buildings might open up at 8, but I would say if you are standing there waiting at the door by 8:30, you should be let in by 8:30. And we do work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And just mind the national holidays. So this coming Monday, we're going to be closed for Memorial Day, so just keep that in mind.
Thank you, April.
April, I had a quick question.
There we
Sure.
go.
I often have get in the conversations with claimants looking for work. Is it true that there are often jobs that employers are only working with WorkSource to try to fill, that they're not going to get posted anyplace else, that the way to tap into those is to come talk to you guys?
Yes, there are some jobs that do that, or employers that do that, and so what they're doing is they're putting the initial screening in the hands of a WorkSource employee, and so yeah, so if you are looking at jobs on iMatch Skills and it's not an SR job, so a self-referral, then you might have to come down to a WorkSource office location so that you can gain access to who that employer is. I've been kind of plucking around on iMatch Skills myself, just helping folks looking for stuff on there. And there's a lot of self-referral jobs. So I don't know that there's a lot of employers that do that, but there are a few.
All right. Thank you, April. And April will be here till the end if anything pops up. And we will now call up Michael from the Oregon Health Insurance Marketplace to talk about all the options available when your employer-sponsored coverage ends. And please feel free to ask any questions at any time during this presentation as well, because we know healthcare can be a little complicated. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you, Teal. Yeah. So going to go into the different options that are out there for health insurance. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So kind of simplistically looking at it, there's two different buckets that the different health options can fit into. Public programs will consist of OHP Plus, OHP Bridge, Medicare, and of course, VA benefits. On the private side, you're going to have employer-sponsored coverage, COBRA, which would continue that after employment, direct purchase, and then coverage through the Oregon Health Insurance Marketplace, keeping in mind that the marketplace is the only way to actually get help paying for that coverage as well. Next slide. So starting with COBRA, of course, again, that's the continuation of coverage after employment. Going to continue on with your current, your part of your coverage you'd have as an active employee. The distinction is it's much more expensive because you'll be paying the full cost instead of your employer paying any on your behalf. In addition, they'll actually have you paying a 2.5% administrative fee as well. So it could get really expensive. That's not saying there aren't times that make sense. But they're pretty far and few between because there's so much other options out there that are often less expensive. Generally speaking, COBRA does last 18 or 36 months, depending on how the contract is structured. But a lot of times, folks that do get into COBRA, if it turns out they have trouble affording the higher cost of the premiums and they lose that coverage, can kind of be stuck a little bit with regards to getting in and getting new coverage. So kind of keeping that in mind as well. Next slide. So I talked about private health insurance. Again, there's two different kind of directions you can go there. One is going directly through an insurance company. The disadvantage there is you really don't have much opportunity to compare plans outside of what that company offers. And again, there's no option to get help paying for the coverage. So you're going to be paying the full freight of whatever you end up finding. On the other side, through the marketplace, it's really likely you'll get help paying for coverage. In fact, 80% of enrollees do. You also again have that advantage of being able to compare plans side by side and kind of look at plans not just amongst one carrier, but amongst a number of carriers in your area. So you get really a chance to look at what the best option is for you and your family based on what's out there, not just what's in that particular carrier's selections. In either case, you do have to go in typically during open enrollment, which is November 1st, actually going to be through December 31st for this upcoming year. And there is options outside of that, what we call special enrollment periods. So certain life events will qualify for one. Loss of employer-sponsored coverage, of course, is one of those, and it'll give you 60 days to get in, both 60 days before your coverage ends and 60 days after your coverage is end to get in and get new coverage. So keep that 60-day window in mind. That's an important time frame. Next slide. So talked about getting help paying for coverage. What's that look like? Kind of comes in two different forms. One is as premium tax credits, which help to reduce those monthly costs to keep your plan in force. And those can be used on any marketplace plan. And then the cost share reductions, which are going to help to reduce those out-of-pocket costs. Think like co-pays, co-insurance if you go to the doctor or pharmacy. Typically, you have to put those on a silver level plan unless you happen to be American Indian Alaska Native, and they have a carve out there to allow those folks to put those on any plan. Next slide. Oregon Health Plan Plus, talked about that. That's the Medicaid program in Oregon, completely free to have and use. Pretty typical eligibility criteria. They're going to look at family income, household size, age. Pregnant folks or folks that have some form of disability or blindness, in some cases age, can often qualify at higher income levels. So always really keep that in mind is, even if you don't think you'd qualify, sometimes even if you don't, maybe your children do. There's other programs out there that allow folks at different income levels to qualify. So great way to potentially get some benefits there. It's available all year. No enrollment period necessary. So it's a little different than the private coverage market. Next slide, please. So OHP Bridge, that's a new program this year, really designed to help folks that maybe are a little higher income than what can qualify for OHP Plus. Still state-based coverage, still free to have and use. They're going to look at similar eligibility criteria for the Bridge program. And it's also available all year. So another great way to get some benefits, and even if you're a little higher income. Next slide. Medicare, of course, if you're 65 or older, in some cases, folks that are under 65 with certain disabilities can qualify still. Still, it's administered through the Social Security office, so that's going to be your go-to as far as getting started. Going to have kind of typical enrollment periods is what they do on the private market. You're going to have the initial enrollment period. Of course, if you lose group coverage, that's another opportunity, like a special enrollment period on the private marketplace. And they'll have some additional windows for specific types of Medicare. And next slide is going to cover more on Medicare, at least some ways to save on some of those costs. So the Aging and Disability Resource Center of Oregon has a number of great resources, two that are listed here: Medicare, excuse me, savings programs and the limited income subsidy. Help you kind of save some additional costs on your both medical and prescription costs, respectively. Those other programs you can find out about through that Aging and Disability Resource Center. Their information's at the bottom of this slide to contact those folks. Good program to contact. Next slide, please. Still on the Medicare subject, SHIBA, the Senior Health Insurance Benefits Assistance Group, terrific group of folks that can help you pretty much all things Medicare. Help you get enrolled, help you if you've got an application stuck, help you if you just need basic information or education on Medicare. Folks that maybe need to file an appeal or a complaint. They help folks kind of know how to avoid fraud and abuse so common nowadays. So just a lot of great services they provide, and again, totally free to use and to reach out to. So great resource to do or to use if you know folks that might be able to get some help there. Next slide. This will just kind of give a quick recap on everything. I know you guys have gotten a ton of information today, so I'll try to keep this brief and concise as possible. But really, the bottom line is we're here to help you. We have a small team, but we're all dedicated to make sure folks get the help they need with respect to health insurance. So I'll put my information in at the end of my presentation here, but this is our information here as well. OregonHealthcare.gov is our website. Terrific website, a lot of tools. We have a tool that we call our window shopping tool. You can go in and plug in some pretty basic information, and it's going to populate a whole bunch of great stuff as far as give you a real live look at what coverage is in your area, what it would cost you, what the benefit structure looks like, what your help paying for coverage looks like, and how that lowers your costs. Give you a chance to compare that against that COBRA possibility there that you'll receive an offer letter on as well. Similar to the 60-day window for private coverage, you'll have 60 days to accept or decline that COBRA. So keep that 60-day mark in mind, especially if you're concerned about having any kind of gaps in coverage. If you have any upcoming, don't wait. Get right on that. And if you have any questions, get in touch with us and we'll help walk you through it. It's really simple. On that subject of getting you some help, we've got a terrific network of hundreds of agents, licensed agents, and community partners throughout the state that we work with a ton and can help you as well as us, and also free. No charge for any of this assistance at any time, and we can connect you. Or on our website, we have our Get Help tool that lets you pull in populate it with your zip code, and it'll pull up a whole list of the partners that are in your area and their contact information. So a lot of ways to help, a lot of different options out there. Don't leave benefits and help on the table. Again, there's no cost to any of this help to you. So take advantage of us. Let us advocate for you and help you where we can. And at this point, I'll take any questions that are out there.
And I think there's one more slide with your phone number on it, Rodrigo.
Oh, thank
there
you.
It is.
Yeah, that's
There
the
you
one I
go.
was looking for. Yes, thank you, Teal. The 855-268-3767 puts you right through to our team. You're going to get a human being that can help you. And again, take advantage of us. We're here to help.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
I appreciate you and your
Thanks.
thorough, concise presentation, because healthcare can be daunting. And so if you take nothing else away, please take the fact that they're there to help, and please call them and they will answer, and the help is free. So, and we know there's a lot of unique circumstances between medications, surgeries, and everything in between. So Michael's team is the expert on what's going to be the best fit for you and your family. So thank you so much. Before we wrap up, just a quick plug on 211. It is a community-based resource that you can call 211. You can go on the app, you can go on the website, but it's going to link you to a ton of community resources, kind of what April already mentioned. WorkSource can also connect you to, but food resources, childcare, help with utility bills, all sorts of stuff. So don't need to be in any kind of qualifying circumstance to call or contact them. You can do it at any time, anybody can. So with that, I think we can go ahead and end the recording and say thanks to everyone for their time. Last chance for any questions. And thank you, Rodrigo. The QR code right here will get you to a list of all these PDF documents that will reiterate everything you've learned today. So scan it, bookmark it. It's the same link I dropped into the chat earlier, but it is connected to our website, and it's going to have documents on unemployment insurance, documents on WorkSource, and documents on health insurance options through the marketplace. So with that, thank you, presenters. Thank you for everyone's time. And we appreciate everybody's participation.